Hello everyone. This video is going to explain what use case diagrams are, what they look like, and how to make them. I'll also explain what use case documents are and how to make them as well. First of all, what is a use case diagram? Use case diagrams overview the usage requirements for a system. They are useful for presentations to management and/or project stakeholders. But for actual development, you will find that use cases provide significantly more value because they describe the meat of the actual requirements. So basically, with this, the diagram is showing how your system is supposed to work and what is required to make it work. Here on this slide is an example of a diagram where we show a system where the customer can create or edit a shopping list with items from a database that is maintained by an administrator. In this diagram, the users or outside sources are called actors, these little people here. They interact with the system but are not a part of it. The actions taken in the system are called use cases, these oval shapes here. And these include creating a new shopping list, adding or removing items from the list, and getting items from the database. So all these items here are things that these actors can interact with and how the system works. The rectangle around the system, the use cases, is called the system boundary. It represents where the system ends and where the outside world begins. On this slide, I wanted to go over the associative lines, the associations between the users, the actors, and the use cases. So the first line I wanted to talk about was this plain black line. It's unbroken. These represent the interaction between use cases, actors, and between use cases or between actors and use cases. It's just associating with, it just means that the actor can create a new list, or that to add or remove data from the database, you have to get the item. So just how they interact. Then you have the two broken lines, the include and extend. These are a little bit different in their interaction. The include represents a relationship where one use case is dependent on another. For example, adding items to a list is dependent upon there being a list to begin with. The extend line is also a dependent relationship, but it takes it a step further by adding onto that first use case. So, for example, if the actor, the customer, has an existing list that they want to add to, instead of rewriting that list, you're just going to add items to the list. So it just duplicates that one, adds onto it, and then the user can see both. The last relationship is called generalization. You can see that between the administrator and the customer. This means the administrator can also take on the role of a customer if they want. It's very similar to how generalization works between use cases as well. If you want to read more about it, I've placed the link for a good explanatory article in the description and also in the references at the end of this presentation. So now that we understand how use case diagrams work, what are use case documents? This one's fairly simple. Use case documents explain the use case diagram to whomever you are presenting to. It's basically just the written version of the diagram. I've placed a link on this slide and in the description for the example that I'm going to use here. So on this website, they've given you a use case template. I really recommend that you use the template, as it's one of the more straightforward ones that I've seen, and it's really easy to adjust for your own documentation. Also, the explanation for the sections are well written and written in green. They're very helpful to go over. It just explains what each section is about and what you should put in there. I'll go over that too in this video as well, but these are a little bit more in depth. In the introduction, you of course want to introduce what this document is, who it is for, and what it is supposed to be telling the reader. The explanation of the use case contents is basically where you explain the sections of the table shown below. So this sample use case table, you're just explaining each of those sections. Again, the text in green gives really good examples and explanations. The sample use case table is pretty self-explanatory. It's where you're going to put the information about your system. The description describes what the system was designed for. The actor section is where you list all the actors that interact with it, and so on. So it's pretty helpful. I mean, you go over the preconditions, what needs to happen before the user or actor interacts with the system, the post conditions, what's going to be the outcome of this, the flow, the designed flow, the alternative flows. So let's say back in our diagram, the alternative flow would be, you create a new list in the flow. The alternative flow is you have an existing list that you use. So you can go two different ways. There's the exceptions, things that may not need to have something beforehand. I didn't have any examples for our diagram, but this one might be helpful to go over. Also, the requirements that must be met before an execution of the use case. So all of these are really self-explanatory, really helpful to be able to describe what's going on in the system rather than just show. That's the end of the presentation. I hope that you all, it was explained well enough. If you guys have questions, let me know. I've included all of my references in this last slide, just for your information and for you to be able to go and check it out. I did want to mention that there is one website, the Use Case Diagram Modeler, the second one on the list here. This site actually interacts with GitHub. So you can pull your GitHub project and create a use case diagram from that. So it might be a little bit more helpful in that regards. So you don't have to create everything from scratch. I haven't fully gotten into all the features of that website, so it might cost or you might have to register. I'm not quite sure. But it can link with your GitHub and save your information there. So thanks for watching. And again, if you have any questions, just let me know. Thanks so much.